Now, where I'm going to go over all of these steps in detail, this is the basic idea. First, you have to have a spreadsheet with a list of people who want to get vaccinated. I'm assuming that you're going to be collecting these appropriately. Second, you copy one of them into the clipboard of your computer. And third, you visit a vaccination portal, and you invoke the injection in your browser. What happens then is that the bookmarklet injects a bit of JavaScript code into the web page, which, through your guidance, fills out all of the form fields, inputs, checkboxes. It answers questions about the person's qualifications, etc., etc., etc. There are some places that you'll have to do some manual work, such as selecting dates and times for appointments, but it is designed to do most of the heavy lifting. Now, the easiest way to collect data is to set up a form. For the rest of this demo, I'm going to be using Google Forms and Google Sheets. They're free, they're secure, and for our purposes, they work. You can also use Microsoft Forms and Excel as well, if you prefer. You can go to forms.google.com, and after you log in, it should look more or less like this. Go ahead and select a blank form over here, and you'll see that you can build out a form and customize it literally any way you want. You can collect whatever information you need to help your team do its job. Just be sensitive about what you ask. But at a minimum, for COVID Injector to work, you'll need the following fields. And here's a form that I've already put together that has them all here. First, of course, you're going to need their email address. To get it at the top of the form here, you can go ahead and click on the settings thing over here and hit collect email addresses. That puts it right up at the top. Next, you're going to need their first name and their last name. That's fairly straightforward. You're going to need their birthday, and make sure the field type here is set to date. That puts it in the appropriate format as well. Next, we have phone number, address, city, and state. But for state, I recommend using a drop-down or a radio button. It'll present it differently, so you have multiple choice, the radio button, or a drop-down. Make sure that the state names are written fully out with proper capitalization, or are built with their 2-digit codes like NJ for New Jersey, NY for New York, etc. Next, we have zip code, and then finally, we have sex. Now, you can collect sex and gender separately, but at a minimum, it needs a biological sex field. And this is only because most of the portals require it in order to actually sign up. Here we have male, female, or other, or prefer not to say. Also, be sure to mark each of the fields so far as required. Each one of them have this little switch here, and everyone should be marked appropriately. Now, where it's not required, you can add in several notes fields, and we can make use of them later, as you'll see. These can be things simply as like preferences for the individual person, distance or travel restrictions, stuff like that. And this availability grid down over here, well, it's an advanced feature that we're going to be getting to elsewhere in this video, so you'll see about this soon enough. In any case, if you scroll back up to the top, you can preview it by hitting the preview button here. And let's go ahead and fill it out once with either dummy information or otherwise hit submit. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Now, once this response has been recorded, we're going to go back to our form over here, and we're going to go to the Responses tab. And here's all the dummy information that I put in. Obviously, I'm not that old. So this is where the data is initially stored, but it's not of very much use for us in this kind of a format. We're going to have the data accumulate in a spreadsheet instead. So we're going to go over here, and we're going to click on this little spreadsheet icon to create a new spreadsheet. We'll call it example vaccine form. And you can also add this to an existing spreadsheet. It'll create a new tab in whatever spreadsheet you select. I'm going to create a new one this time. And this is where the magic happens. And now we have a new spreadsheet that's in your Google Documents account. And here it is. You can double-click on the tabs over here to rename them. This little form responses icon indicates that it is linked to our form, and you'll see there is all of our information that I put in appropriately. You can give out the form link and have people fill it out, and their responses will show up here. And you can use standard spreadsheet jiggery-pokery if you want to make another tab that keeps track of how many people are in the list, etc. But the important thing here is that we now have a data set for COVID injection to work with. So now we need to configure COVID Injector to work with our spreadsheet. All that matters at this point is that we know what fields are where, because we're going to tell COVID Injector where to look for them. Now, there are two websites for COVID injection. There's the main deployment, which is at covid-injection.netlify.app. This is the stable version of the software. Most folk will use this. By the time that you're using this, this will look different. And then there's the development branch, which is at covid-injection-dev.netlify.app. This is the version that I'm currently working on that has new features and is literally a work in progress. It's not stable. I work on fixing bugs. But when it becomes stable, I push those changes to the main deployment, the main website. This way, if I make a big change and it breaks the system, it doesn't take everybody who's using it down. Regardless, configuring a COVID injection works the same way on both. And I'm going to show you how to do it on the dev website because this is the latest version of the code. First thing we do is that on the main page, we click on the View the Custom Bookmark Generator page here. And using this, we can tell COVID injection which columns in our spreadsheet represent what. So if I go back over to our example form, let's go ahead and fill this out. So our email address column is in column B. We go over here, and I'm going to scroll over and over here, email address. Set that there. Notice column A in our thing is a timestamp, so we can set that to other. We don't need it. Let's see, column C, that's our first name. C is first name, D is last name, E is birthday, etc., etc. First name, last name. I'm going to go ahead and fill this out. Give me a moment. Once you're done, you go ahead and you click the Generate button. And if you missed a required field, like I did on purpose, it'll tell you if 5-digit zip code is required. Oh, where was that on our form? That was column J. So I'm going to go back over here, scroll over to column J, and set that to zip code. Hit Generate again, boom. And here is your bookmarklet. Notice since I'm using the dev branch, it says dev on the front just to keep track of it. Now, how we install this is that we drag it up to our bookmarks bar. Now, if you can't see your bookmarks bar, then you're going to want to enable it in whatever browser you're using. But I click this and I drag it up over here, and I'm going to drop it. I'll drop it at the very beginning. Boom, there it is. Notice I have a bunch of them already up here. You'll notice also below over here that some organizations have buttons that are already pre-generated for them upon request. You can drag any of these to your bookmark bar too. And if you have multiple spreadsheets that don't have the same format, you can generate a button for each of them, and you can always, of course, edit the name of the bookmarklet so you don't confuse them. So for example, I have one here for my standard one, and I have one over here for the HP Vax, which is another group that I help. This one I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to edit, and I'm going to call it, yeah, there's all the code, you see it there. I'm going to call this the example injection. I'm going to save it, and there it is. That's our button. Now, once you have that sorted, we are ready to use it. The first thing we do is go back to our spreadsheet and we select one of the rows that contains someone's information. It's best to click on the row number so that everything in that row is selected. Now, it's best to then hit, to go ahead and copy it. If you go to right-click, the copy feature is right over here, or you can click on it and hit either Control-C or Command-C if you are on a Mac. And then with that information copied, we need to visit a supported vaccine portal. There is a list of them at the bottom of the page on the COVID injection website. I'm going to go over to CVS. Now, once it loads up and we have our stuff in our clipboard, we go ahead and we click on the bookmarklet. Now notice it loaded up and it already went past the initial question. Now, if you don't have proper data in your clipboard, it will alert you and it will load in dummy data that can help you get through the initial steps anyways. And then when you get to a point where you need to put in real information, you can just copy it and it will continue with that new information. It will only actually input information that is in your clipboard. Now, if the bookmarklet disappears, like after the first step with CVS, you just go ahead and click on it again. And you just keep on clicking it, and notice how quickly you're going through this. Normally, this would take you quite a long time. So you'll notice at the top of the window, it will show the individual's name. This is to ensure that you're using the right information, along with any of the notes fields that you have defined below it. There are up to 4 notes fields that you can define, and they will all appear one on top of the other. I just had "I'm good to go." In fact, if we take a look over here, generally you follow the instructions in the bottom part of the window. For example, there will be places that it says to continue manually or to click again. Over here it says continue manually until the please provide details screen, then click here again. We're not there yet. We have to actually go ahead and, of course there are going to be no appointments over in 00000. I'm going to say, let's see if we get lucky. Nope, I'm not lucky at this point, so I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to show you how it looks like to get CVS. No matter, I don't want to accidentally put in dummy data. In any case, when in doubt, click again, and if nothing happens, look for possible errors or things that you need to fill in manually. This will happen sometimes. Forms can be finicky, they won't like special characters or accent marks or dashes. Be on the lookout for that sort of stuff. And that's essentially it. You just keep on clicking this and filling out manually until you get to the point where you have scheduled someone a vaccine. And on average, this should reduce filling out a vaccine form from around 10 minutes down to 1 or 2, and reduce any data entry errors by preventing you from retyping anything. Now let's take a look at a few of the more advanced features of COVID injection that can be of a big help in a number of cases, but they require just a tiny bit of extra work. Let's say that your form got reorganized for whatever reason, or some columns were added and you want to add additional notes fields or something like that, or somehow something just doesn't match up anymore. This happens all the time. You change the form, the spreadsheet changes. Now, instead of having to re-enter all of the different values all over again and reconstruct the entire button, all you need to do is view the custom button page and go ahead and click on your bookmarklet, and it will automatically load in all of its configuration into the form. Notice everything is back where it was. And we'll get to this part later. Phone number, address. So you can go ahead and you can add in additional fields, you can move things around. And when you're done, you generate a new button. And you simply delete the old button and replace it with the new one. And you're back on your way. Very often when you're working on a volunteer effort, you'll need to track some additional information, such as which people are on a list who are finished, who did the scheduling, for what organization the scheduling was for, what type of vaccine they got, etc., what the appointment is, so you can follow up later on. And usually this is done by more manual entry into a spreadsheet, and you might not want to keep all of the personal information you had at the very beginning for security reasons. But here, we can record additional information and have COVID Injector copy that and whatever other columns we want back into our clipboard, so we can simply paste it right back into our spreadsheet. Once again, this eliminates data entry problems. So when you're on the bookmark generation page, go ahead over here to this optional bit that I teased at earlier. And the following interface will appear. You'll notice that there are some new fields here. We have volunteer name, vaccine type, first vaccine date, second vaccine date, vaccine location, vaccine website, and then all of the fields that you're familiar with that we were able to input beforehand. So simply set these up the way that you did before for your input, and then click on Generate, down over here, Generate button to save it. So for example, over here, I'm going to say I want to have the person's email address, their first name, their last name, and their phone number so we can follow up on it. Where's that phone? And then I want to know what vaccination website, who the volunteer was that booked them, and their vaccine type, and their first, second, and the location, like the address. So I'm going to go ahead and say generate. I'm going to make it so that it's more obvious when a new generation has occurred. And I'm going to drag this up onto my bookmark bar. I'm going to delete my old bookmark. I'm going to rename this guy, example injection. I'm going to save it. So now when we are in the midst of using our COVID injector, I'm going to open up our injection. All you need to do is go ahead and hit the equals sign. That's make sure that you're in the window and on the window, and hit the equal sign to the left of the delete key, and you will notice that this panel over here opens up on the right. Here you can record your name or some other indicator of who is filling this out. It could be like Steve for whatever organization. This will be saved between sessions, so in the future when you open this back up, then whatever name you put here will still be here. It's saved on your computer. The software will try and detect the rest of these things, but at this point you may have to enter them in manually. So you can choose what type of vaccine that they got. Let's say they got a Moderna, like I did. Let's say the location would be, we'll say CVS, and then you can put the CVS's address here. Their first dose date, when you get it, you can type it in manually, or depending on your browser, you can click on the little date picker here. It's up to you. And then when you are done, all you need to do when you're finished scheduling is that you click on this Copy to Clipboard button. Notice it says Copied. And now all the fields you set for the bookmarklet will be sent back to your clipboard, and you can paste them into your sheet directly. I've created a second sheet here that has all of the column names that we set up in our bookmarklet over here. And since it is right in my clipboard, I can just click on the next row and I can hit paste, and all of the information is right there. Just like that. Now the availability grid is something that's new, and it may change. But this bit allows you to have an availability grid in your Google form where someone can indicate when they can be scheduled, as well as a visual representation of it on the COVID injector when you're scheduling them. So to do this, in your form, you need to create an input called a checkbox grid. It's in the it's right over here underneath multiple choice grid. And you need to configure it exactly like this. So with the rows, they should be the days of the week, Sunday through Saturday. You can put them in whatever order you wish, but they need to be written out appropriately with the appropriate capitalization. And the columns need to be exactly mornings with a capital M, afternoons with a capital A, and evenings with a capital E. Also make sure that require a response in each row is off, otherwise it won't work. Now when you save your form, let's go back over to our form responses here. You notice at the very, very end of this one, when I first made it, we have these 7 columns. It makes availability Sunday, availability Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all the way up to Saturday. 7 new columns, 1 for each day of the week. Now, when you are configuring your bookmarklet, you can go ahead and put those in. Let me see. So it's Monday is N, OP, etc. So I'm going to go over to our bookmarklet again. It starts at N, and I'm going to go all the way down to the very bottom. I'm not sure you can see it, but there's Sunday availability, Monday availability, Tuesday availability. I'm going to speed this up. So here we go. They're all in over there. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on Generate. And I'm going to drag my new bookmarklet up over here. And I'm going to show you what it looks like. I'm going to go back into our form. I'm going to copy my dummy data into my clipboard. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to invoke the new bit here. Now notice what this looks like. We have an availability grid. So we can tell that this person can be booked Sunday mornings, Monday afternoons, Tuesday evenings, Wednesday mornings or afternoons, etc., etc. Just a quick at-a-glance bit. So when we actually get to getting them in, whoever is currently filling this out will have a good idea of when they will be able to schedule an appointment that will stick, that whomever they're scheduling it for will be likely to make. Eventually, I'm probably going to add in some means to customize this a little bit more, but for now, this is how it works. So that's about it. If you have any questions about the software, please reach out to covidinjector@gmail.com. If you want to help maintain the code base, you'll be able to visit the project. It's all up on GitHub. And if you'd like to financially contribute, which some people offer from time to time, please instead consider donating to Christchurch, New Brunswick's Food Pantry or Laundry Love Ministries. I hope that you find this tool helpful while we get people vaccinated against this disease. Use it well, and thank you for your time and effort.